Alright, guys, so I'm kind of thinking of starting a new segment here on the channel. I've recently gotten back into writing and I just finished my first book, and that'll be available on Amazon from the 1st of May. So once we get closer to the date, I'll kind of do a little bit of a soft launch on it on Facebook and Instagram and maybe on here as well. But I've also been writing some articles that I've been posting on my own Facebook. Just kind of hard truths in the industry for clients and professional hunters and outfitters. And it pisses some people off maybe, and that might be a good thing, get people to think a bit different. And it could help some first time hunters or some experienced hunters that are coming down to South Africa. It's mostly going to revolve around South Africa because I feel the industry here has been moving into a direction where it's getting a really bad reputation, and for quite a while now. And I'm not saying everybody's bad here, and most outfitters are really good and do things the right way, but we've got those black sheep in the industry that really mess things up for everybody because they're the ones that get shown online and so on, and it can just make an impression that everything is bad. But so and a lot of clients come here and they think they had a good time, but they don't actually know what happened, what went on in the background of the safari. And so that's kind of what this article's about. So I'm just going to read what I wrote and then discuss it further afterwards. But it's basically, you go home, you think you had this amazing fair chase safari, but you might not actually know what went on in the background. The animals were dropped off just before you got there. And if there's an abundance of, say, herds of females, let's say impala, and the outfitter drops a 26-inch or 25-inch impala ram the day before you get there, you won't even realize that happened, and you think that animal was born there and it's always been there. So I'm going to be, reading more articles like this. I don't know how often I'm going to be doing it, whenever I feel like it. But if this is something you enjoy, click the like button, comment down below what you think about the article. Go follow me on Facebook, where I post all of these daily or every couple of days. And and if you like the format, please subscribe, and then you'll be up to date every time that I release one of these. And we're not only going to be doing this on the channel, I'm going to be doing some hunting stuff for myself, personal hunting stuff as well. I've kind of got an idea. I want to do a warthog series where we hunt a warthog in different parts of South Africa and see how do their tusks grow different. Why? Is it food? Is it pressure? Is it soil? Just kind of fun stuff going around and trying to figure things out and take you guys along for the journey. And so please, if you feel like you want to see that kind of stuff and more of this, subscribe, and then you'll always be in the loop. But anyway, let's get to this. So, are you being told the full truth before you hunt Africa? A lot of hunters come home from Africa happy. They got a good animal, they were treated well, the camp was comfortable, the food was good, the pictures look great, the memories feel real. And maybe they are real. But that still does not automatically mean they experienced the kind of hunt they think they did. That is the part very few people want to talk about. Because the truth is, not every questionable safari ends with an unhappy client. Some end with a happy one, a satisfied one, a man who comes home proud of what he took and convinced he experienced a wild, fair, honest hunt. But did he? How would he know? Was that animal truly wild, or was it brought in shortly before he arrived? Was that opportunity the result of a real hunt or of a heavily managed setup behind the scenes? Was the area really what it was made out to be, or was the marketing doing more work than the land itself? Was that species actually a realistic hunt, or was it sold in a way that made the outcome sound far more natural and likely than it really was? And if no one tells him what questions to ask, how is he supposed to know the difference? That, to me, is where a lot of the real dishonesty in this industry lives. Not always in outright lies, often in omission, in what is left unsaid, in the way things are worded just carefully enough to leave the client with an impression that may not be technically false, but still not be the full truth. And I say that knowing this firsthand. I've made mistakes in the industry myself. I have fallen into some of these traps before. I have gone along with ways of doing things that, looking back, I do not think were right enough. That is part of why I feel strongly about it now. It's easy to criticize the industry from a distance. It's harder and more honest to admit that you have at times been part of the problem too. The client hears free range and imagines one thing. The outfitter may mean something else. The client hears fair chase and assumes a certain standard. The outfitter may be using those words very loosely. The client sees a species on a price list or in a package and assumes that animal is properly established in the area and hunted under normal conditions. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. The problem is not that every safari in Africa is dishonest, far from it. There are many good outfitters doing things properly. The problem is that too many hunters arrive with no real way of knowing what they are stepping into, and too many outfitters benefit from that lack of clarity. Because once a man is in camp, excited, tired of travel, and emotionally invested in the trip, he is unlikely to start asking difficult questions. By then, the story has already been sold. And to be clear, this is not about whether someone enjoyed the safari. A man can enjoy a hunt very much and still not know what really happened behind it. He can enjoy the stalk, the shot, the recovery, the campfire, the photographs, the whole experience. But enjoyment is not proof. Satisfaction is not proof. A good trophy is not proof. A smiling client is not proof. You can be happy with the outcome and still not have experienced what you think you did. That is the uncomfortable part. Because if an animal was released shortly before the hunt, but no one told you, does it matter if you still had a nice stalk? If a species only available because the property is constantly being restocked, but you were left with the impression that it was part of a natural established population, does that matter? If the hunt was far more controlled than it appeared, but it still felt exciting in the moment, does that change anything? I think it should. Not because every hunt must be wilderness in the classic romantic sense. Africa is too varied and too complex for that kind of simplistic thinking. And do not get me wrong, if a man wants an easier hunt, higher odds, more comfort, more control, or even something close to guaranteed, there's nothing inherently wrong with that. It's his money, his trip, and his prerogative to hunt the way he sees fit. Not everyone is looking for the same experience, and that is fine. The problem is not that these hunts exist. The problem is when they are dressed up as something wilder, fairer, or less controlled than they really are. Just make sure you know what you're signing up for. That's the point. Not every property must look the same. Not every hunt must be hard. Not that every fenced property is dishonest or even unfenced one is pure. The point is that the truth matters. If a hunt is controlled, say so. If a species was recently introduced, say so. If success on that animal is unusually high because the setup is highly managed, say so. If the property is small, say so. If animals move freely over a large system and success is genuinely uncertain, say so. If the hunt is more about opportunity than outcome, say so. The right client is not scared off by honesty. He is attracted by it. What damages trust is not difficulty, it's ambiguity. And I think too many outfitters still rely on that ambiguity. They rely on the client not knowing what questions to ask. They rely on good photography. They rely on the emotional pull of Africa. They rely on the fact that many first-time hunters simply do not yet have the experience to tell the difference between a truly honest hunt and a well-packaged version of one. At some point, outfitters need to stop taking clients for fools. Stop assuming that as long as the client leaves with a good photo and a good story, the details do not matter. They do matter, because the client is not only paying for an animal, he's paying for an experience, he's paying for a standard, he's paying for a version of hunting he believes in. And if that experience is being presented one way while functioning another way behind the scenes, then something important has already been lost. That is why I believe one of the most important things the client can do before booking an African safari is ask better questions. Not rude questions, not hostile questions, just honest ones. Because if an outfitter becomes uncomfortable the moment you start asking for clarity, that tells you something too. A proper outfitter should be willing to explain the ground, the animals, the hunting pressure, the realism of the hunt, and how things are actually done. That should not be a problem. It should be normal. Africa is too special, too expensive, and too meaningful a trip for most hunters to arrive under false impressions. If you're paying for the experience of a real hunt, then you deserve to know what the experience actually is, not just what it's called. Because in the end, the question is not whether your safari was easy or hard, controlled or uncertain. It's whether you were told enough truth to understand what it really was. So basically, I'm getting to, it's very easy for us to create a reality in the hunting industry. And for guys coming over from the States, especially first-time guys, they might not see all the nuances that are going on in the background. And it might not be a problem to them, but I know of many clients that I've spoken to that have hunted with me but hunted with someone else before that said, wow, this experience was different. We thought the first time was good, but then we've now realized we've seen certain things that maybe didn't make sense the first time around. And not to say that we run the perfect operation, far from it. I've made a lot of these mistakes myself in the past, and that's one of the reasons I'm getting back into this, is because I've caught myself drifting into a direction that I don't want to be part of in this industry. And a lot of it has to do with financial stress and that kind of stuff. So you start cutting corners and you start bullshitting here and there. And I want to get away from that. I've done that, and it's, it weighs heavy on me. So I'm trying to get this information out there so guys know what to look for and know what questions to ask. So, if you have any questions that you wish you would have asked your outfitter, put them down in the comments, please, so that guys that watch this and are maybe first timers and don't know what to ask, they can have a look at them and then know what questions to ask outfitters that they're busy talking to. Because at the end of the day, if the outfitter tells you, hey, look, it's 5,000 acres, we've got a herd of buffalo on here. They're not the wildest buffalo, they're used to humans, they see us around all the time. But they're used to vehicles, they're not used to people on foot. So we're going to hunt them on foot. They might come for us. They might run away. It's very dense bush. So it's still a dangerous, exciting hunt, but it's not a true wild buffalo hunt in the sense. Or, you go on a 2,000 acre property, high mountains, a lot of bush, valleys, and you're looking for a bushbuck ram. And you might not even see one on 2,000 acres in a week. Doesn't mean they're not there, but it's the nuances of properties are all different. And but like impalas and blue wildebeest and blesbuck and all that stuff on high fence properties so abundant that you're pretty much guaranteed you're going to shoot it, and it's not going to be this crazy wild Zimbabwe, Mozambique kind of hunt. And that's fine. South Africa isn't that. South Africa is more controlled, but just know what come with the right expectation, and make sure your outfitter explained to you how big is the property. If you think about it, say an outfitter has 20 hunters come through and each one shoots a kudu bull, and he's got 10,000 acres. It takes 7 years for a kudu bull to fully mature to a huntable age. So how many kudu bulls must be on that property for you to be able to take 10 or 20 every year, mature bulls? You need so many bulls in different ages. And are you seeing all those different age bulls, or are they being brought in at the beginning of every season ready to hunt? And that's not a problem. Some guys don't mind that at all. But you should just be aware that it's being done. If there's too many hunters through, even on big properties, the amount of, especially the slower growing animals like kudus and stuff, the amount of animals, bulls at different age groups that you have to have on those properties to be able to produce your own offspring year after year after year and hunt mature animals is just out there. Like we personally, we don't take more than, well, here in the Northern Cape we're low fence, so kudu come and go. We never know what bull is on the property. All our animals move freely. We've got inside livestock fences because it is a working sheep farm. And it to some extent controls springbuck, blesbuck, but they do still cross the fences. They jump over, they dig, go under. But we have a lot of management tools that we use to try and keep them on our property. Kudus and the bigger animals, they come and go. There's nothing really you can do about that. But on our high fence property, we don't take more than maybe 3-4 clients a year max. And not everyone's shooting a kudu. Maybe we shoot 1 or 2 kudus. We shoot two Klipspringer. I cap it at two Klipspringer. We shoot some bushbuck. Impala, there's abundance of them. They grow very quickly. They're huntable from 3 years old. You know, you obviously want to hunt an older animal, but they are fully mature from 3. Blue wildebeest as well. So those, they turn around quicker. But I'm talking specifically about like buffalo, kudu, sable, even nyala. Those animals take a long time to mature. Here in the Northern Cape, we don't do more than 5-6 groups of 2-3 hunters, you know, just to keep pressure low, to make sure that everything goes well, and we don't need to supplement feed. We don't need to bring in animals for clients. You know, everything needs to run as naturally as it can. And that's the whole thing we're trying to look at, is to have a natural system where the animals can go on, live the way they would in complete wilderness out there in Africa on our properties as well. But a lot of outfitters try and wingle wangle and to bullshit you. And so I think basically the point of the video is just, you know, ask the right question. If you're a first timer, ask the right questions. Even if you've come multiple times and maybe now you start thinking back and things start to come up in your mind and you're like, well, that didn't make sense. You know, the next outfitter you go with, ask the right questions and just, get them to be honest with you, because honesty is the number one thing in this industry. And I think if we're not honest with clients, we might make some money in the short term, but in the long term, the whole industry is suffering. And it's not just you that's messing up and you're not going to get clients. All other outfitters are going to be thrown into the similar basket as you, and it's just going to be a major fuck up. And so if you like this kind of video and want to see more of the stuff I write, go follow me on Facebook. Go Oliver Wetstein, like me on Facebook, and then just subscribe to this channel. And I hope that you guys enjoyed it, and see you in the next video. Cheers.